Hi, if you're new to my channels, I'm Kaniti and today I will be playing a game that I have made in 2 days for Ludum Dare 59. Usually it's a game I make in 3 days, but this time I have decided to go for COMPO because I always work alone and in Jam you can work in a group, so I felt like I belong more in COMPO, especially since I don't use pre-made assets, I make everything myself. I just wanted more days initially, but this time I have decided to challenge myself and also write a code. Basically, you could say for the first time. There was some coding in RenPy. I did play around with Game Maker for another jam, but really I'm not a programmer. I'm more of like writer, artist, you could say. So it was definitely a learning curve and it was a challenge for me. But just last week, you could say, I have started to learn Godot, and I have watched one tutorial and I have read some documentation and discussions on Godot forums and on Reddit when I have encountered an issue like how am I going to make this happen. I have tried to find a solution, and in the end I'm pretty happy with the final product. I have managed to make a game that is playable. There's no crazy gameplay. I was doing what I could technically do, like the very basics that I have learned, but I think it worked out pretty well. And so my process was on Saturday morning when the jam started for me. When I woke up, I wrote out a plan, like how the game is going to look. So the interesting thing here is the game is about a Moon Moth, and it actually came to be from the theme of the jam. The theme of the jam is signal, and I wasn't really sure how to show this theme in my game, so I have checked the dictionary, like how can you translate the word signal into Russian, and one of the translations was sun moth. So I have found an insect. I don't know why it's translated like this, but I have found this insect, and then I came up with the concept of the game, and I thought it makes more sense for it to be Moon Moth. So I found that insect, and I used actual Moon Moth as a prototype for how my main character is going to look like. I drew the concept of how the intro is going to look, how the main background, the mini game. I came up with the mini game again using the theme signal, because the stars that you will see in the game, these are signals by dreaming people, because the idea is as a Moon Moth, you create this sleep dust, you put people to sleep, and then their consciousness sends out a signal to you that is represented as a star in the game, and you answer this signal. So this is how I interpret the theme. Then we can see in the mini game itself, we have to catch their dream waves to weave a dream for them, and that is another interpretation of a theme signal, because you could say that, the sound wave, the dream wave, it is a signal in a sense. It's one of the meanings. And then obviously I came up with the types of waves themselves, the combinations, and so the dreams you get, they are based on what types of waves you got. And then also on the first day I have created a plan for myself, and I went through it, doing like checking things off, writing new things that I have just like, I have to do this too. And so on the first day I did all of the coding, most of the coding I did on the first day, because that was what I was worried about the most, like, is this even going to work? How am I even going to do this? I was terrified going into this, but then in the end of the first day I basically technically had a playable raw prototype, playable game, you could say. And so on the second day I created the dreams themselves, I planned them out, I have written poems for them, I made voiceovers reading these poems aloud in different ways, trying to change like my approach a little so it's more interesting. I have written a little melody using kazoo and a recorder for the intro. I will talk about it during my playthrough, and also I used them to create some sound effects. Basically, the second day was mostly drawing and recording the audio work, and then I made the animated intro. I tested everything, exported everything, and then just few hours before the end of the COMPO, I actually did publish my game. So let's see this game. If you're coming from Ludum Dare or from wherever else, I'm going to play through it and I'm going to give my developer commentary, you could say. So it's not just a silent playthrough, I'm going to talk a lot. If you want to just experience the game for yourself without me talking over it, because I feel like it is an important experience to just take it in silence, in stillness, in darkness, listen to the audio. I put a lot of work in the audio. Someone said it's like ASMR. Well, I guess you could say that. I will put obviously a link to the Ludum Dare and a link to each as well. You can download it for Windows or you can play in browser. The browser version is a bit laggy, I feel like, so if you can play in Windows, it's better to download. But if you are unable to use either option or you want to hear my commentary, this video is for you. So let's get it, let's go. Okay, let's open it. And it's not going to be full screen. I have deliberately made it 800 by 600 because I wanted to keep the scope small, I wanted to keep the game small, and I wanted to be like small and cozy in a small screen. That was part of my concept, but yeah, unfortunately that's how we are going to see it now on the video, which is maybe not ideal, but I hope you can still see it clearly. And what you see in the intro is I have made, and this was actually the last thing I made before exporting and releasing the game, is I drew this animated intro that it actually took a long time, and as you can see I didn't even add any like shading or anything to the picture, but I'm still happy with how it turned out. And the melody that you can hear is I have recorded it myself with the musical instruments that I have, so this recorder or flute, however you call it, and the kazoo, so the bass melody is kazoo, and then the rhyme you hear underneath it is on this flute. So it is very simple, but I wanted to achieve this dream-like feeling. And you can see a little hints I've added here: horror, stars, dreams, romance, and water. Dreams is just in general that it is about dreams, and these 4 words, they are actually hints for what types of waves there are in the game. This is also this sound. Again, I have wanted to create this hypnotic, sleepy atmosphere, almost like a lullaby, and with music, and keeping also the visuals simple. I have made the animation for our Moon Moth, also very simple animation, just a few frames, and I have added particles falling out of it. It was also one of the last things I did. And here we have, they're also reacting, 5 stars. So these are 5 dreamers, and I'm just going to say it right away. They are supposed to be disappearing after you give them a dream. So for example, I will go for this dreamer right now. And the idea was that after we create a dream for them, we come back to the city and this star would be no longer there. Unfortunately, I couldn't manage to do it, and then I didn't want to break my game, like trying to basically revamp it, because it seems like they are supposed to be some kind of global variables, or this outrun event that I didn't really get into, but I did use a global variable. So when we give all the 5 dreams to like all the 5 dreamers, then we will be able to see the ending. So let's go. Let's get into it. So this is the mini game, some of my comments here, and as you can see, there are waves falling also with their particles, and if we get this, this and this, first ending, first dream.
Stars. Oh, close enough. We'll buy some cars, we'll hit some bars, enjoy some dance.
This is the only fun and positive one, because when I was making the combinations are, well, it is called water now in game, but in my mind at first I was calling it ocean wave. So it was ocean, star, and romance. And this is the first dream. So ocean, star, and romance. And I have decided to go this way and make the star in this like actual sea star and write, you know, a silly poem about a dream of this girl and the sea star. And that was basically it with the lighthearted ones, because for other combinations, all of them have included horror. Ocean, star, horror, ocean, romance, horror, star, romance, horror. Okay, there is also a Wildcard. Wildcard is also more positive. But here it is, and again, you can get the same dream for all 5 dreamers. It is completely possible. The dream you get, it depends on the combination that you make. If you make the same combination 5 times in a row, you will get the same dream 5 times in a row. So that's where like a little bit of gameplay in my game comes in, that you have to actually search for a new combination and try to actually avoid some waves to get this combination. Now we'll look at it again. I'll show you like the idea of it. We need ocean, star, and horror. So see, the thing is with horror, it's very easy to get or avoid it. See, it's always falling from like somewhere there, and it's falling really fast.
What is holding you together when the waves are drifting up and if there's a cause of death, a goblin will have future up.
Very positive, right? That's actually one of my favorites. I'm really happy with how the voiceover is sounding. I'm very happy with the visuals and like with everything. And the idea came again, it is ocean, star, and horror. And I was thinking again about a sea star, and I started googling like how the skeleton of a sea star looks like, and that's what I found, that's what I came up with, and I have adjusted it a little bit. I have added obviously the fangs and this alien looking eyes, so it's kind of crab looking eyes, you could say, and so it became its own monster. But yeah, and every like this vertebrae that I drew, I drew it individually, so I didn't like copy paste anything. I was just drawing these vertebrae like this. Yeah, I spent a lot of time drawing these CGs, but yeah, this is one of my favorites. I'm really happy with this, and the idea is, well, it's pretty understandable if you read the lyrics. I feel like how do you manage to still hold yourself together when there's so much shit happening around you, and all your dreams, they have been basically murdered, and all your future is now in the dumpster because of the things out of your personal control, because of your country, government, people around you, whatever you have personally in your life. So this is the representation of that. So obviously there is a little bit of something personal in everything. Well, even the first dream, I There's nothing really like personal in there, but yeah, I just think it is a cute idea. It takes this classic trope of two lovers running along the beach, you know, being happy. I have just used a sea star as a second lover. Okay, so let's see. The third dream is actually very interesting. It is ocean, romance, and horror. So now it doesn't matter which star you use actually, right? But it should matter, they should disappear. So as I said, see, horror is very easy to get. Now here we have romance and star. This is a little bit more complicated. You have to catch one specific. See, romance is falling, we're avoiding this, we're getting the star. No, I fucked up. we need to get romance actually. Okay. I'll have to do another playthrough, I feel like. Ocean, romance. See, I'm bad at my own game. Okay, I just talk too much, distracting myself. So we catch ocean real quick, we catch horror real quick, and now we go for the romance. Yes! Oh, we got it!
There, at the end of the lake, quiet, she's looking at me. Maybe there is no escape, though no desire to flee.
Okay, this is also one of my favorites. Maybe I even like it a little bit more than the second one, because this is the most personal, I would say, the inspiration. Two dreams that I had in my childhood. Actually, one of them is not really represented here because that would be too much. That would be too overwhelming, like two dreams in one. There was a dream that I'm in this small clearing in the night, surrounded by woods, and the shadows with like the faces of Anubis. Well, they're shadows, so like more like silhouette of Anubis, right? Very 2D. They are coming out of the woods, and it felt like I had this dream every night for a while, and every time it felt like they were getting closer to me. So that was a horror dream. That was pretty scary, and I have remembered it my whole life. I'm not sure like why didn't they end up getting completely close to me, like, and how did I get the same dream every night? So I'm still thinking about this. And then there was another dream that was also a recurring dream, and it was about a boy and a mermaid. Actually, I feel like I was seeing myself in that boy. He had you know, like a cap, back cap. How is it called? How's this thing called? On your head, right? He had it on his head. I feel like that was also like my mind using Ash from Pokemon, because I was watching Pokemon as a kid. So I think that was like his visual. And so he was actually sitting near the lake, and that mermaid, she was in the lake sitting on a rock, and it felt like I was seeing myself in that boy, and that mermaid, she was calling for me and trying to, you know, lure me in. And it also felt like a horror dream, like there was this underlying understanding that if I go into the water, if I swim to her, she will drown me. Well, that's what mermaids do in the fairy tales, at least in Slavic fairy tales, like in Russian fairy tales. The mermaid is a spirit of a drowned woman. So they actually don't have the tails in Slavic folklore, but the mermaid I was seeing, she did have a tail. I feel like, again, I was watching something like Little Mermaid and stuff, right? So that's how I imagined mermaids, not the Slavic ones. But here I have made the combination. So the forest that you see, it is a very simplified version, taking inspiration from this Anubis shadow dream. And so now we have lake as this small clearing. So I have combined these dreams, you could say. And then I have swapped the boy for this woman. Again, it's not really me, as you can see, I'm not blonde. But I felt that it is a more faithful representation, and I have made the mermaid more like ghost-like entity. She still has a tail like a European mermaid, but I think this ghost entity likens her, makes her a little bit closer to the Slavic mermaid. This is like a ghost, you know. And then also the color palette that I chose, like I did use base colors from my main palette, but the combination and the palette I chose, it actually does give me the feeling of old Slavic fairy tales. I can't quite explain why. Maybe it's like my personal association, my personal feeling, but yeah, for me it is visible, so that's how I have decided to play on it. And obviously here in this dream, this is basically the same meaning, and we see the girl here is already swimming, and so there is underlined understanding that you are going to die, but at the same time you don't have desire to run away. So this could also be interpreted in many ways, you know, as romantic feelings. You have feelings for this person and you realize that, oh, you're going to be like fucked over if you are going to be with them, but at the same time you're still drawn to them, etc., etc. So you could interpret it in several ways, in your own ways. So yeah, I'm very happy with this one. Let's see the next one. So Dream 4, Star Romance Horror. We will actually have to see Wildcard in the separate walkthrough because I fucked up watching Dream 2 twice in a row. Let's see, Star Romance Horror. So here, we catch the horror that is falling real fast. We avoid the ocean, we catch the horror. And then it's very easy with romance and star because they kind of come together. From
The planet, exploding in darkness. We are drifting apart as it seems. I am reaching for you regardless, even when the world's bursting it seems.
So this one, it's also personal, you could say. This one is looping because I did want you to be able to look at the CG, but also be able to read and reread the text, but the text is kind of covering it. I have to say right away, after I drew it, I felt like the visual style reminds me of something, and I have to admit, I feel like it is similar to, you know, there is an artist, David Sierra, from Spain, I think from Madrid specifically, and I have translated a few books from Spanish that he illustrated, and maybe there was something like somewhere, you know, in my brain, in my heart, that I really do like how his drawings look, and I have just recently started translating this, like a continuation, a sequel to Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince, I think in English, right? Or Principito in Spanish. And David Sierra illustrated that book. And I feel like, yeah, the visual style is kind of similar to David Sierra. And here we also have, you know, this theme of cosmos, of space. So I feel like there was an inspiration that I just didn't realize, that didn't recognize at the moment. But then looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of felt inspired subconsciously. But I feel like it's funny because the planet, it's supposed to be the planet, but it looks like a button, but at the same time I feel like it still works. And the idea of the poem, again, it's something personal but also universal. It's this feeling that there's so much stuff happening throughout the planet. At first it was just my country, Russia, all this started happening when it waged a war against Ukraine, and I was in such shock, and like I'm still, obviously this is all still ongoing, so it is going to be reflected in my art, but then also other stuff around the world started happening with other countries, and even recently. We are not going to talk about this right now. This is about my game. This is not about all these details. But yeah, I just started feeling, this is going worse and getting worse and worse. There's like wars, invasions everywhere, horrible laws being implemented in different countries, and the governments, they're just getting worse, not better, and you feel helpless in all these situations. And this is like also reflected in the dream too. But here, this is there is a little bit of a positive spin, you could say, or melancholic one. The idea is that, yeah, it seems like we are all drifting apart from each other, but with this game and my games and everything I do, I am trying to still, and having friends in different countries, I'm trying to still reach for other people in other places and be in contact with the world and be part of the whole world. And so that's what I'm talking about in this poem, that I am reaching for you regardless, even when the world's bursting at seams. So it was also very personal for me. I actually did cry when I implemented it and stuff. On dream 1 I was chuckling and laughing, then on this dream I was crying, so that was like an emotional journey for me. And these are all 4 base dreams. We actually watched 5 now in total, because I messed up. So now it's supposed to activate right away, but well, there were some, again, coding issues there. So now when you try to interact with another star, it will note that, oh, you have 5 stars already. Well, I had to change it to 6. Like, you have 6 stars now because you interact with this one. And that's how you get the finale ending. You get it no matter what. Even if you get like same dream with all 5 stars, you will still be able to see the finale. Let's see. You have answered the call of the stars and created 5 dreams. There are 5 different dreams in total, and here is the bonus one.
The city sleeps so quiet, but all the dreams are dreaming of.
Yes, and that is it. I was thinking like there has to be some kind of finale, some kind of ending to the game. I was like, everyone is dreaming, but what the Moon Moth is dreaming about? And Moon Moth is, this kind of mythical being. I was actually searching for the word eldritch, but then I found, oh no, eldritch means more like scary and stuff. But then this Moon Moth, she's not malicious, and she's not specifically kind. She's more like neutral, eternal, mythical being, that she sprinkles this dust, sleeping dust, over the city that puts people to sleep, and then she enters their consciousness and she catches their dream waves to weave the dreams for them. So obviously, like in real world, they would all have individual specific dreams, but obviously since this is a game and I have to draw everything, I had to generalize it, so to say. So that is kind of, just like old fairy tales, they were trying to find explanations for why things are the way they are in our world. And this is a fairy tale that has an explanation of why do we sleep and why do we see dreams, this kind of fairy tale explanation. And then during the day, the Moon Moth herself, she is going to sleep, and what is she dreaming of? And I had this pretty basic idea, I guess, that she's dreaming of herself, dreaming of herself, dreaming of herself, dreaming, and so on and so forth, endlessly, and that is represented in this CG. Now this is the end of the game. We go back to the main menu, and also in the last moment, I have realized that after the main menu, the game still remembers the global variable of the stars you got. But I did manage to notice it while testing, and I did manage to reset this global variable. So now we should be able to do a second playthrough right away, no problem. Yes. So now we are just going to see the dream that I missed last time, and that would be the Wildcard. So the Wildcard, her spawn is later, more rare, but she usually just flies pretty fast straight through the screen. Oh, see, she flew by, but like out of out of bounds, so we have to wait for her. Oh no! See, here she is. Yes, it's not that hard.
An endless river. What is hiding there? Will I find what makes me live? Or I'll reach the promised land?
And this is the Wildcard dream. I was kind of not sure at first. I wanted to make it about an adventure. So at first I drew the plan that we are in this boat and we go into the boat along the rainbow river. It's all sparkly. There's bright like candy everywhere in the sky. Oh, obviously there has to be candy. I don't know if you can see it there, but then I thought that's kind of boring. And I have drawn a concept of this, well, basically what you see on the screen, of this like endless river. And I have used my rainbow idea here. Well, it's not exactly the rainbow, but I did add different rainbow colors to make it more fun. I have added star and moon, as these are a little bit kind of a symbols of a moon moth. You can notice that on the little legs of moon moth, on one leg, on the end of one leg there is a star, and on the end of another leg there is a moon. And so here, this dream is basically a representation of adventure that is life. And you are seeing this dream, thinking, what is going to happen in this future? I'm going through this life and I don't know what is hiding in the end, and what will I find, something scary or something good, something happy. And you can see this person at first transparent, then brighter, and then super bright. The idea is the progress. So the transparent, it's more already in the past. Then the medium one is where she is now, and obviously the brighter one is like in the future. And you could say maybe the moon and the star are the representations of different options, like where can this lead, and you can't really tell where will you get in the end. At the same time, it could be the representation of the concept of the game, that you are going to sleep. It also feels like this endless river, and you do not know where the sleep is going to lead you. Is it going to be a nightmare, something that makes you shiver, or will you reach the promised land, a very happy dream that will make you all excited and very happy when you wake up? So these are all the dreams, and basically now if you are done with the game, you can just close it. Okay, I hope that wasn't too messy, and if you just wanted to like see the game, since if you came from Ludum Dare and you wanted to see how the game plays and how it looks like, because you weren't able to play it yourself for some reason, also with some explanation on the process and how it came to be, because I feel like that's also important, that's also part of the game. Obviously, I have to say, this is a piece of art. As one of kind commenters on my game has said, this is first of all art. Well, games are art. So what I'm trying to say is that, as with any kind of art, you interpret it in a way that you understand it in your own way, and that is always valid. So these are just thoughts that I put into it, that's how I saw it, but obviously all the dreams you can interpret in your own way, the concept, the idea, the underlying messages, the symbolism of the game, you can interpret all of this in your own way. obviously, usually I do the games that are this mix of chill and uncanny. And again, thankfully, I feel like I managed to do that. It was always unintentional, but now that people have told me about this, I have started thinking about this a bit more. But then I'm thinking, oh, this game, I have to do it in only 2 days. I have to code so much. I can't really concentrate on the atmosphere and the story. I have to think about like how is this all going to work. But then when I see the finished product, yeah, it doesn't have like super deep messages or super like it doesn't really have a story, but it still has this atmosphere that I feel like specific to my games, and I still got the comments about it being uncanny in a way, like unsettling, and this makes me happy. I feel like this is the atmosphere that I personally really like, so maybe that's why subconsciously I'm adding it everywhere, because this is what I personally enjoy. But I think that's all I can say about this game. Yeah, it was really a simple, silly little game. More, more like a little fairy tale, as I said, right? A little fairy tale explanation of how do we sleep, why do we see dreams, and why do we see the dreams that we see, like how this all comes to be without, any crazy underlying messages. Because like in my previous games, I did usually have some kind of psychological message, but here maybe you can find it again, you can interpret it in any way you like. So if you are watching this from Ludum Dare, feel free to go and leave a comment, review, rate the game if you haven't already. And if you just stumbled upon this video for some reason, just watching this on my other channels, then maybe share your thoughts in the comments, and I will link the game on Ludum Dare, and I will link it on each. So it will be in the description and probably in the pinned comment. But that would be it for today. So thank you for watching until the end. And if you're coming from my Kaniti Reactions channel, I do remember about this. I am going to film something before the end of the month. I have to film skins. I have to edit some Georgia Hammond beat videos. So, I'm still alive. I'm still there. And if you're coming from my One Piece channel, yeah, it's pretty bad. I have recorded some reactions. I was reading the manga, but then I didn't have time and energy to edit these reactions, and now I'm behind on manga too, so I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, that is it for today. So thank you for watching, and see ya.